I woke up in a world full of contradictions and contrasts. My skin was burning hot, but I was shivering uncontrollably. The poison was burning inside me, making me feel uncontrollable. My wild wolf was being pushed to the surface, but I couldn't let it out. I couldn't, even as the poison gnawed at me, causing my head to throb terribly. Chapter 26. You know what's funny? My luck. My life. I'm a whole fucking joke. I'm the best fucking comedian of the century. I'm a whole-ass puppet being played around to entertain an audience by a puppeteer. In the crowd were the same merry rogues and my family, clapping and smiling. And there was the younger me, standing on the stage, being used and played around like some toy, wondering if I was able to make them laugh. Now I laughed to myself, realizing I haven't changed since. The me now was still hopeless and vulnerable. I still wonder if I was enough, if my family would ever search for me and take me back. And I ask myself, even when my own brother shot me with Wolfsbane that didn't show its effect until now, do they still love me? Since my luck is incredible, I didn't even have to waste my energy and time searching for yearn like I planned to, just so that I could give Theo the answers he wanted. I had the answers in the very palms of my hand. If only Theo had waited one more day. Because the same burning, uncontrollable sensation the day after Theo left told me the answer to my question. I wake up to the familiar burn igniting in me, the same burn that those vile rogues had given my wolf and I. It was the exact rickety pain that Aconitum, better known as Wolfsbane, had given me before I escaped and turned into a lone wolf. My skin was red, hot to the touch, but I shiver uncontrollably as a cold sensation travels up my spine and all over my body. My throat felt drier than ever, and I scratched it in hopes of driving the pain away. But that wasn't the awful thing about it. The poison was making me lose control, forcing my wild wolf to the surface. I don't let her. I can't. Even when the poison was gnawing at me to let her out. Even when it sent an aching pain to my head and made it throb awfully. Because if I did, then I'd be dancing among a pile of dead wolves. The poison was making me feel uncontrolled. My mind was in a pool of frantic thoughts and manic desires. I was in such a state of disorder, and I was fighting myself to keep my wolf in. So I laughed dryly to myself, not believing that I'd let myself be used and attacked by my family and those rogues again. I was stupid for not having any suspicions when he shot me with that arrow in a way that it didn't kill me. He just wanted to feed me poison once again. Why? I curled myself into a fetus position, clutching the blanket to ease the coldness that bit at me. My body, on the other hand, sweated from the heat that somehow clung itself under my skin. Tears start forming on my eyes when a wave of loneliness hit me. I felt unwanted. I let the tears drop and fall down my cheeks. A sob escapes my lips when I taste the saltness of my tears. Cry, baby. I didn't know what time it was, but I couldn't care less. The Wolfsbane making its way to my system distracted me from my hunger since this morning. All I wanted was pasta and dessert. God damn it. I cocooned myself further into the blanket, nesting my body and snuggle my pillow. And then I continued to cry until I was sobbing loudly and gasping for air at the same time. Realizing that my volume was starting to become head-splitting, I nuzzle my face into my pillow to muffle my sobs. I want Theo. I croak out. When I hear the raspines S in my voice, another pang of distress hits me and I let out a heart-wrenching weep. Another realization dawns on me. Theo wouldn't come running back to me because there was no way he would feel my torturous pain. He had completely cut all communication, leaving Felix in charge. And since my wolf was fucked up, the mate bond didn't apply to her like it did to me. And I needed her to connect my emotions to Theo's wolf. Fuck my luck. I shout in frustration. The sound was muffled by my pillow and only to be heard by myself. The next day was better than the day before. It could only mean bad news. I knew what it was, the calm before the storm. Tomorrow would eat me away and kill me inside. I told myself that it'll soon end, and all I have to do is make sure my wolf doesn't reach the surface. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I stare at my nightstand, locked in the same position I've been since yesterday. My eyes felt swollen from all the crying and my throat was dying for water. But I couldn't find the energy to get off the bed because every movement felt like I would lose control. I wince when another aching pain hits me. I close my eyes, hoping that I would fall asleep and avoid the pain. I was tired, but my body somehow forced itself to stay awake. A knock on my door disrupts me from my thinking. I furrow my brows, already forgetting that people existed. I clear my throat, crossing my fingers that my voice wouldn't break. Then, I shout, "Yes. Are you okay?" I hear Felix's voice from the other side of the door. "No, yeah. Sure." I shout back. There was a short silence before he speaks again. "Are you ready?" To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I lie. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I hear him draw out as if he wasn't digging my lie. I want to be alone. I want to be alone. I don't reply and I heighten my senses for any sounds of footsteps. When I hear his slow footsteps fade away after an agonizing second, I release a shaky breath. Then, I close my eyes, devoid of any thoughts because right now, all I could think about was the tormenting pain. I was right. Today was the fucking worst. I wake up in the middle of the night, my head throbbing more painfully than ever. I let myself fall off the bed with my blanket still covered around me. I clutch my head in turmoil and clench my jaw to stop a scream of agony. Fuck. 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 I rant to myself. I struggled to breath and I took in deep intakes of air. It took all the energy in me not to bang my head on the wall and knock myself out. So instead of self-harming, I resort to destroying my whole room. I grab an expensive vase off the nightstand and throw it across the room, hoping that the loud chatter wasn't heard by others. My hand trembles as they reach out for an empty glass. Still not satisfied. But I stop myself from doing so. Because if I don't stop now, I fear that I wouldn't be able to stop until this room couldn't even be called a room anymore. So I hug my knees and rock myself in silence the same way Eric did. I open my eyes and blink again when I lose vision for a terrifying second. My wolf was trying to push me to the very back of my mind and lock me up. And it scared me. I didn't want to lose myself. I clutch the end of my bed when I feel the fire inside me growing more and more rowdy. I wanted to throw something to destroy and to kill. Everything seemed to annoy me. The painting of the wall irritated me. The bed that I used to love so much made me mad. And even the eerie silence made me displeased. I hear a chirp from outside my window and I whip my head, glaring at the loud-ass fucking bird. I dig my nails into the sheets to stop myself from jumping out the window just to murder a fucking bird. The image of it almost made me cry. If anyone or anything makes one more fucking sound, Alex. Giovanni's voice calls out. I shut my mouth closed and keep myself from blowing up. Earth to Alex. What? Celestina wanted me to tell you that she deeply misses seeing you at training. He drawls out sarcastically. Sarcasm isn't exactly my thing at the moment. I take a deep breath to suppress a growl before replying. So, right now, I didn't give a fuck about sounding rude or not. I just wanted to be left alone. Giovanni pauses, as if taken aback. He waits for a long second before talking again. That's not the reason I came here. You haven't left your room once since Thea left and I'm pretty sure you're starving to death. Everyone's concerned about you. You hear me? Hell, even I am. So I suggest you leave your room right this fucking moment because the idea of me being worried is disgust. A cheerful voice disrupts him. I huff in annoyance when I realize it was Emilio. Took you long enough? I hear Giovanni grumble. The best always requires the most amount of time. I bite back a growl and pull on my hair when another wave of shooting pain strikes me. I breathe heavily when my breathing becomes uncontrolled once again. Open the door. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Emilio sings. I brought your depressed ass some food. Usually, his never-ending gleeful personality made me smile. But right now, his happiness annoyed me. I pat my head in an attempt to fix my hair and for the first time, I move my limbs to open the door. I keep my head down low and snatch the plate from Emilio's hands. Well, I hear him breath out. Thanks for the act of gratitude. Tu l'as agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm feeling really appreciated. You're welcome, I shout back. Just shut the fuck up. We'll wait here. Just hand us your plate when you finish eating. I don't reply and quickly eat his spaghetti. My stomach crumbles in content. After a few bites. However, a striking pain pounds at my bead and I drop the fork to the ground. Bile forms in the back of my throat and I stop myself from throwing up my stomach's contents. A fuss tugs at me to lose control and ravage this place like strings on a puppet. I hold back a snarl and recompose myself. Opening the door swiftly, I slide the tray towards Amelia. Well, that was fast, he mutters before I slam the door right in front of his face. I return to my blankets and wrap myself inside it once again. When I realize that it wasn't working anymore, I prance back and forth, waiting for Emilio and Giovanni to leave. My hands crave to tear down this room and leave it in a wreck. The sound of footsteps leaving never reached my ears. However, there's something wrong. I hear Emilio tell Giovanni in a hushed voice. No way, Captain Obvious. No, I'm serious. Emilio inform him firmly. What is it? Giovanni questions after registering the urgency in his voice. Normal Alex would have stolen the diamond bracelet I left on her tray. I hold back a breath and halt on my movements. A strange silence also fills in the air and no one dares to speak. That was until Giovanni kicks the door open, and I finally lose my temper. Your eyes. Amelia breathes out as my wolf's bloodshot. Red eye surfaces. I lunge towards him, not being able to stop myself from ripping his throat. But before I could, Giovanni slams me to a wall and holds me back with an arm. Get me a rope, anything. I don't give a flying fuck. And yet Felix and Talia are here. Quick, he commands. Emilio doesn't waste a single second. Then, my mind goes black and all I could recognize was the uncontrollable hunger for blood growing inside of me. God, I'm worse than a motherfucking vampire. I growl and bite Giovanni's arm, who refused to stand back down, and I continue to do so. My wolf feeling satisfied at the gruesome marks her canines left. When I grasped the fact that Giovanni didn't seem fazed by this, I kick him where the sun don't shine. He groans and loosens his hold on me enough for me to break loose. He realizes his mistake to slow and I shove him out of my way. I rush past him with undeniable speed. I let his shouts calling back for me become muted. I grasp the walls while I run to God knows where I'm going. My head throbbing as my wolf claws at me for a release. And before the pain drives me insane and make me fall the floor, I let a part of her gain control. She doesn't fight for more control with the knowledge that I had the same goal as her. The pain stops and all I'm left with is a powerful craving for chaos and annihilation. We both craved blood. Ian's blood. Chapter 27. I run and run for what seemed like hours. However, the amount of times I've seen the sun go down and back up told me otherwise. I couldn't feel my own fatigue because my own greed overcame it. My desire to kill made me void of all other emotions, and so as I run, I let all my thoughts rest at the very back of my mind. Bright lights coming out of makeshift homes and contrasting the darkness of the night enters my vision, and for the first time, I stop running when I finally see familiar road camp. It sends a jumble of emotions and thoughts to my brain, making it go haywire. From a distance, I watch in both amazement and dejection as families return to their little tents. This was a home that turned my childhood a tragedy, but it was also a place that raised me, provided me warmth, and gave me a place to live in. Too bad I didn't come here to share tears of joy and yearning. I was here for a very special someone. The crunching of leaf disrupts me from my thoughts. I turn to the intruder, only to feel a hand roughly pull my hood off and grab a chunk of my hair. It only takes a moment for my eyes to meet his, which widened in surprise. He lets go of my hair, but I pull him closer, completing my intention. Hey, you look familiar, he starts off, but stops when he coughs out blood. His eyes widen and he keeps his eyes locked with mine in terror. I twist and dig the knife even deeper in his abdomen. The man weakens and groans, leaving his weight on me. Yeah, you probably see me in your nightmares, I say under my breath. Then, I push his huge body off of me, leaving him on the ground to wither away. Whether his wolf heals him fast enough to survive or not was none of my business. Luckily for me, I didn't have to waste energy hiding his body, which was hidden by the darkness in the shrubs. I pull my hood back on and return to my task. My eyes roam a familiar setting and I let my body move at its own accord. Familiarity and memories charge my brain. None of them were happy. Thankfully, before I know it, I behold my brother's home in front of me. His home was further from the rest, giving him more privacy. Lucky for me. A smirk tugs on my lips when I spot Yearn's and another's looming shadow. I lean on a tree with crossed arms, knowing that these ignorant rogues wouldn't notice me. I tap my finger on my skin as I wait for him to notice my wonderful presence. Goodbye. Make sure to sleep well. Tonight, I make out from their muffled voices. I flinch involuntarily and watch as the shadow of a prideful man I once knew recedes. Yearn keeps his back to me as he takes in all the figures retreat to the warmth of their tents. I scrutinize him while he stays still even when there was no other signs of presence. He just stares at the empty space. Not a sound spoken. I'm surprised you're still breathing. Sister, he carefully says, disrupting the silence. Cut to the chase. What are you doing here? To get a hug? What else? I reply bitterly. He keeps his back to me and spits out. I'd rather let fire burn near you than ever let you lay a hand on me. Not after what you did. I wince but continue. Then why? Why what? He questions hopelessly. Why even bother trying to kill me? Just let me live. That is all I ask for, Yearn. I notice his shoulders tense when I called out his name, but he proceeds. You're an abomination. Your wolf is no better than a monster. You were supposed to die. I am just finishing what we started. You suffer from your own creation. I snarl at him. You're right. He breathes out. And for the first time, he slowly turns towards me. I meet his amber eyes that used to twinkle with joy and hope. Now I see is pure emptiness, so devoid of emotion. Your existence itself is atrocious. Your wolf is even more corrupt and foul. You being alive is dishonorable and is a shame to our moon goddess. The world doesn't deserve to see such monstrosity. I take slow steps towards him until I was an arm's length away from him. Yearn, like the proud wolf he is, refuses to stand back down. My wolf stirs in me, urging me to snap his neck and leave him in the deeper parts of the forest, leaving him there for the hungry creatures scavenge him. Luckily for you, brother, you're one of a kind. You deserve to see this monstrosity that you call me. I snap, taking another step towards Yearn. I bring my hand to his cheek. You wouldn't dare kill me. You would never. He spits out bitterly. I let out a dry laugh and let my claws extend. He didn't flinch and keeps his cold eyes on me. That doesn't mean I can't hurt you. I tell him with a lopsided smile, letting my claws trace his skin. Blood falls from his cheek and down his neck. He didn't move an inch. His chest rising up and down was the only indication of his ability to react. My wolf, frustrated by his lack of reaction, lashes out on his chest. She shivers in content when she inspects the horrifying mark she leaves. Yearn coughs out blood but quickly wipes it off his mouth with a shaky hand. I feel my wolf relish the image of my brother's pain. I don't feel a single ounce of regret when I look up to see his eyes shut close, the area under them moist with unshed tears. I tiptoe so that my mouth was near his ears, then whisper, "What makes us different is that I rightfully claim the evil title you all have given me. But the truth is, you people are no better." He refused to open his eyes, his arms locked behind his back, and stops himself from breaking down his own cold exterior. A part of me wishes to hear his voice one last time. I wait a painstaking minute and regard his somehow still confident stature. I used to look it up his so much for being so strong and mighty. When he didn't speak, I decided it was my cue to leave, gradually taking steps away from him. I tell him one last time and hope that my voice didn't waver. Don't worry, brother. You'll heal soon. I hope so. At least. I turn my back to him completely and pick up my pace. I hold back the tears, feeding a sense of abandonment just like I did years ago. Then, I feel the familiar rush for release and let my wolf's exultation surge throughout me despite my heavy heart. And for the first time in a long while, I give my wolf complete control as my bones reform and my skin turns into fur. Landing a paw on the wet earth, I let my rejoiced wolf guide me back to where my heart belongs. Chapter 28. Kara and I found our way back home, our hearts feeling lighter than ever after we placed our differences aside. Still, she remained silent all week long, but all I cared about was the serene gaze as her eyes roamed over the dense forest, where her other half belonged. At least she was doing better. I knew I'd never get back the Kara who smiled so brightly, but I was grateful to even have her by my side, especially after the foolish things I've done. My eyes follow Kara's retreating figure as she enters the pack house with slow and steady steps. I follow her right after and smile when an image of my mate enters my mind. I wanted to give her a back hug and shower her with kisses, but I already knew something was wrong the moment I entered my territory. I could feel my fretful pack members panicking, and I could also feel the absence of my mate. But somehow, I don't feel an ounce of concern. I trusted her with all my heart. My wolf could feel Alexandria's satisfaction through the mate bond. That could only mean that her wolf just accomplished something so triumphant and satisfactory that I could feel it through the mate bond. My wolf yips at me, overjoyed, because this told him that somewhere out there, his mate's consciousness still resides in her. I could feel like walls that separated us break down little by little. Maybe, just maybe, today is a day we would finally decide to move on to the future. I opened the doors of the pack house and immediately, hundreds of distressed wolves move their attention to me. I hold back a chuckle when my eyes land on Emilio, sitting on the edge of a table, his knees bouncing up and down anxiously. Scarlet rubs his back in an attempt to calm him down and places a blanket around him. Theo. He starts but stop him when I toss my coat at his face. His down-turned lips dug even lower when I throw him my biggest smile of reassurance. I don't think it's working. Instantaneously, there was a pause in all movements. I meet Justina's eyes as she gapes at me with uncertainty and disbelief. I watch a little kid blink at me repeatedly, stopping midway in the process of biting her nails. The ambience seems to shift and my people eye me up and down as if I just stole something from them. Sorry, I don't steal. Unlike someone else I know it. What the actual fuck? I hear a voice mumble to themselves. Don't worry, I've got it handled. You all trust me, don't you? I question them. When there was no response, I raise a skeptical brow at them, prodding them for an answer. The only reply I received was a slight nod. I unbutton my cuffs and then my shirt, slipping the dress shirt off my body. I fling it at Gio, who narrows his eyes at me suspiciously. I smirk when I see the dried blood in his arms and say, "Nice tattoo, Gio." I ignore his grumbling and march towards Emilio, who eyes me with a frown on his face. His brows furrow when I yank the blanket off of him. I'm borrowing this, I tell him shortly. I grab two large black shirts that were yet to be worn from a basket by the door. Twisting the knob open, I ignore the stares as I leave the pack house. Are you sure they're even mates? I hear an exasperated voice ask another. I shut the door close. I rush to the woods and unrest completely, shifting into my wolf. I feel my bones mend and my skin turn into dark gray fur. A surge of energy channels through me and I let my wolf surface. And I let him guide me to Alexandria as we run north as fast as we could. There she was, playing with a pebble like it was the most interesting thing ever. I couldn't take my eyes off of her captivating light brown coat and the most alluring scar that runs through her side, a sign of her strength. Taking a step forward, I note her wolf tense and she turns to me. She growls at us, incapable of feeling the mate bond. I don't think mate likes you, my wolf tells me, as if you're any different. Alicia. Taking another risky step forward, my wolf wags his tail to show that we mean no danger. She stares us with a look of indifference, and I land another paw on the ground. I drop the clothes I held with my teeth, feeling that we were starting to get too close. She stiffens and growls at us slowly in a threatening manner. "Oh, that's so cute," Alicio informs me sarcastically. Still, I could feel his spirit go down unintentionally. He wanted his mate back, but it was something we both knew would take time. Ignoring his mate's lack of affection, he treads towards her. We both earn a skeptical look from her, but my wolf disregards this. Unconsciously, he paces towards her like an idiot because we both lack brain cells. I groan mentally when I realize it might look like we were trying to attack her. And as if it couldn't get any worse, my wolf jumps at her for an embrace. Instead of a hug, we receive a hard hit to the scruff of our neck. The only pain I could feel was a slight sting before the cut closes up, leaving no indication of her attack. Shaking off the surprise and shrugging it off, my wolf continues to throw himself at her without a single fuck in the world. Alex's wolf continues to back away, questioning our actions. Whenever she took a step back, we took a step forward, and whenever she growls at us, he growls back playfully, not wanting to wait any longer. My wolf pounces towards her and rubs his muzzle on her fur. When there was no response but an emotional glare, he turns to his underbelly as a sign of goodwill. Her wolf circles us and eyes us warily. My wolf persists and yaps at her repeatedly. She caves in, lightly landing a paw on his head. I could feel Alicio feel overjoyed. He flips back to his legs and licks her muzzle. This time, she doesn't retract, but instead, she consciously rubs her muzzle on his fur. "Mate likes me." Alicio yips at me mockingly. I don't reply and scrutinize Alex's wolf sit down on her belly with closed eyes. My wolf continues to rub his face on hers until we feel her consciousness slip away, allowing sleep overtake her and let her know that she trusted us enough to protect her. And they lay there for as long as I can remember before I sense my jubilant wolf recede to the back of my mind without a word. I shift back into my human form and quickly change into my clothes. Lowering myself until my knees land on the ground, I take in the wolf's beauty, carefully placing a hand to caress her fur. She leans even more to my touch. I grin, overjoyed by the progress we were making. Her intimidating, yet captivating red eyes flutter open, and I move my hands to pet the top of her head. I laugh when she yips at me with glee. "Will you shift back?" I ask her. She licks my hand and lets out a triumphant cry of delight. I hear the familiar sound of bones mending, but I keep my eyes on my mate's charming face. When she completely shifted, she raises her arms and I slip the oversized shirt over her. Then, I wrap the blanket around her small body and she immediately wraps her arms around me for an embrace. Oh God, I'm fucking whipped. I hug her back and sway with her, placing my lips on the top of her head. "You smell like Kara." "Gross," she mumbles. I laugh and hug her even tighter. "Not anymore. Now that's how I like it," she tells me proudly. I hum and close my eyes, simply basking and enjoying her presence. The silence of the woods were not eerie, but relaxing. I allow myself feel at ease. "Do you remember?" Alex starts off breathlessly. "The time where I got into a fight with your sister and you acted like some jerk?" Of course I do. It was a day I was recognized as the #1 deal shaping in the entire universe. I say truthfully. "Do you remember what she said?" I furrow my brows but continue. "That apparently, your mother wishes you well." "Yeah." She breaths out and I could tell that her voice was beginning to falter. I start rubbing circles on her back for reassurance. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." She begins once again with a rather quiet voice. My lips dug downwards into a frown, despising my mate's sorrow. "You're okay," I whisper. "The reason she irritated me is because my mother is dead." She pauses and takes in a deep breath. I didn't know what to feel. I was both remorseful for Alex and furious at my sister. Yet at the same time, I was infuriated by myself for letting others step on her. I open my mouth to speak, but she stops me when she lifts her head up to look at me. An aching pang is sent to my heart when I see the hurt on her face. I was the one who killed Mother. She words out breathlessly. I don't say anything and make sure to listen to her carefully. There was a day when my wolf went on a rampage and no one could handle it. So the rogues who took care of me locked me up for a few years, waiting for me to perish. And then it finally came to a point where they agreed to put me down and give up on me. Luckily, it appeared to me that there was an attack. To my agent extraordinaire, Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It was so horrifying that war against all rogues, that war gave me an opportunity to live. The wolves who guarded me had fled for safety, except one person, my mother with a knife on her palms. So I had to. Theo, I wanted to wake up every morning, cherishing a new day. I wanted to survive. I wanted to live. I gently bring a hand to Alex's face and wipe off her tears with my thumb. A passionate spirit grows inside of me. I wanted to care for her, protect her, and most importantly, love her for the rest of my lifetime. A parent who puts their selfish needs over their child is not a loved one. A woman who uses her hands to kill instead of providing comfort for her children is not a mother. A family who makes their child sacrifice to give them the life they want is not a family, but simply strangers. I pause and keep my eyes locked on Alex's honey brown ones. I keep caressing her cheek as a way to comfort her. You did not end the life of a mother but a killer. I watch as the tears drop down her cheeks and hear a painful sob escape her lips. Evil people don't deserve your tears. Me Alma, I say, under my breath. It's not. She manages to say and gives me a lovely smile. I'm crying because I love you so much. My heart warms up at her words and I stop myself from saying it back. She needs to hear my story and I didn't want to keep my hopes up, wishing that she'll love me forever. If she thinks that what she had done in the past was sickening, then what I've done is unjustifiable. There's things I need to tell you first. To my agent extraordinaire, Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I ask her for assurance. Will you hear me out? To my agent extraordinaire, Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I was the cause of Felix's mate's death and the niece I could had. I admit slowly. I meet her eyes only to see trust in them, not an ounce of distaste. In what way? I begin. She was mated to the Rogue King and they loved each other deeply. But then one day, she visited another town unaccompanied and she didn't realize that the heat would hit her until she was in total pain. Without a mate and company, she eventually caved in her craving and couldn't resist another man's touch. Naturally, her mate, Silas, couldn't bear the feeling of betrayal and left her. But then I found out Carol was pregnant, who refused to tell me whether her rightful mate or the unnamed stranger was the father. I was enraged to war against the Rogue King, furious by the way he handled the issue. I was foolish. Alexandria. I didn't think of the pressure I gave Kara and her baby. I let Felix's mate, who was frail and inexperienced, walk through a path with savage wolves. I allowed loved ones, unmated wolves who had another waiting for them, and mated wolves who could have had families to die just for my foolish and selfish acts, keeping my eyes trained on Alexandria. So, my love, do you really want to love me? I'd rather love a truthful, educated man who has seen the world than a flawless and inexperienced boy who hasn't. She tells me genuinely, not wasting a second. Theo, it's your choice. Do you want your past to simply be a mistake or a lesson? I thoughtfully study her face, her beauty making me breathless. I keep my eyes locked with hers as my heart becomes lighter. Who allowed me to love such a beautiful woman? Alexandria, will you be mine for eternity and be my rightful Luna? I ask her, mustering up as much sincerity as I could into my voice. Took you long enough. She laughs out with a lopsided smile. And that was all it took to get my heart soaring and I lean in for a kiss. My lips press onto hers delicately of pushing my body closer to hers with her hands on either side of my neck. My hand roams past her shoulders and down to her waist, holding her in place, enjoying the taste of her lips. I deepen the kiss and she responds almost immediately. I pull apart and let my lips trail her jaw and down to her collarbone. My teeth grazes the skin on her neck where my mark should be. Swiftly, I plunge my canines and wait only a short second before retracting them, marking her mine. My wolf howls in pain when we hear her whimper, only for it to be replaced by a moan of pleasure. Placing another kiss on her forehead, I slowly say, I love you. I love you too. Her little signature smirk reaches her lips and I copy her actions. Copycat, she breathes out. And we burst out in heaps of laughter. Chapter 29. I hop off the bed, waking up to an unusual and unfamiliar liveliness. The one thing that hasn't changed. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, was that I still woke up late according to Felix. You know those days when you suddenly wake up feeling bright and giddy? Those days when you finally have the energy and motivation to do work? Yeah, that was me today. I felt surprisingly passionate and fresh and I was more than willing to train. I walk more like Prance towards the mirror, throwing a peace sign and winking to myself. Craning my neck, I run a finger over Theo's mark, a moon outlined in blank ink with its center blank. A silhouette of a wolf's head filled the empty space inside the full moon. An alpha's mark automatically makes you a true Lunan, it only be imprinted on their soulmates, preventing most alphas from marking another person other than their mate. Otherwise, the connection between the Luna and the pack is weaker. I couldn't be any happier to say that I didn't have to go through some old traditions like other Lunas from other packs do. I was no way in hell gonna drink everyone's blood and risk getting some disease or have some sacrificial offering. I grin when I acknowledged the new spirit trusting inside me. My heart was thrumming with zest and my mind was swirling with vigor. The Luna's position gave me the intention to care and to protect my pack. Too bad for them I have a different way of doing so. Somewhere deep in my mind, I could make out a very exhilarated Emilio prodding the mind link in an attempt to communicate. I block him out. I grab a random black shirt out of 1,000 from Theo's closet. I walk to the pile of new clothes Celestina had given me. It wouldn't last me for more than a week's worth of clothes, but it would suffice for now. Changing into it and grey sweatpants. I contemplate putting on a hoodie, then decided it was too hot. You coming to training or do I have to kindly drag you again like I always do? Felix sweetly informs me through the mind link. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Now that you mention it, I'm suddenly too tired. I mention, slipping on running shoes I stole from Talia. I leave the room and close the door behind me. Since were you not? Giovanni adds. Breaking through the link, I roll my eyes and blot both of them out. After going down millions of staircases, I finally reach ground level and find my way out to the training grounds. I saunter to Celestina, who was busy studying the women dying from lack of breath as they completed their trillionth lap. I assume. I slow my movements in an attempt to sneak up on Celestina. The idea died faster than it was sparked in my mind. Whatever you're thinking, don't even think about it. She drones with her back still turned to me. It's not gonna work. I think it did work. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I tell her as I march towards her so that I stood next to her. I must have been asleep because I don't remember you doing anything with my memory. Now what did you do? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Made your heart skip. I try, throwing in an additional wink. Skip from terror. Yes, she retorts, winking back at me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Bitch, I repeat with my voice. She whips her head, her ponytail nearly hitting my face. Shifting her weight, she starts positioning herself into her fighting stance. As much as I'd like to play fight with you, I'm taken, I say with a fake frown on my face. Her leg as if leaves the ground to kick me. Hands behind my back. I evade the attack. I apologize, but I have a lot on my plate right now and I don't to flirt with you. I have a warm-up to do. I run for my life. I join the group of women who have yet to finish the warm-up. My lips stuck downwards when I noticed the woman wearing a sports bra and running shorts. Her breaths were getting shorter and heavier. I feared she was gonna collapse when her legs started to waver. I run beside her for a hot second, and her head turns to look at me. Her hazel green eyes widened when they land on me. She bows to me and opens her mouth to say something. But I stop her, letting a small gasp escape my lips. I tell her truthfully, "You have really pretty eyes." Her cheeks turn into a light pink shade and flustered. She says, "Yours too, Luna." I laugh out of doubt but accept the compliment with a flying kiss. "Well, thank you." Now I was running past her, but I smile when I note her throw a victory punch as she fixes her fawn and breathing. I continue to run the rest of the 10 laps, noticing the number of runners listening. Oh, will you look at that? I have a stage all to myself. I keep my breathing in check and keep my pace steady. My interest spikes up when I see Giovanni staring at my direction with crossed arms. I waving my arms at him to get his full attention. He turns away from me almost immediately. The routine continues, me running around the track and trying to get attention. Theo energy. I'm telling you. I pout when I pass Theo momentarily, his back towards me as he shouts commands and watches his people like a hawk. Okay. Now let me see those ABS. Baby. I must have unconsciously sent it through the mind link because his back tenses almost immediately. I watch him shake his head, refusing to look at me. Starting off my last lap. I was about to sprint when Emilio's blonde hair reaches my eyesight. I jump and throw my arms high up in the air. It takes him another second to react, but he reciprocates my actions. I muster up all my energy to finish my last lap. I walk to Celestina and nudge her shoulder while the other women wait for a come and patiently. What's the schedule for today? Grabbing my bottle of water and taking in big gulps. I raise a brow when her brows perk up with newfound enjoyment. We're sparring. The words roll off her tongue. Fuck. I breath out. With the other adult, she adds some couldn't to control the laugh escaping her lips as if it was the funniest thing ever. Suddenly, my leg hurts. I huff out and grab my leg. Look. They're coming. She coos and I release my leg. Feeling defeated. Everyone go in your blocks. Celestina commands them. I watch them scramble to their positions, some excited and some not. I was the latter. I find my way to the very back and scratch the back of my neck as Theo's eyes washes over the crowd. Wow, look at the shoes. Interesting. Go to your partners. Person A rotates and person B stays. Each pair has 15 minutes to spar before swapping partners. I don't want to see anyone taking breaks or chatting. You all know the drill. Theo drags out. I refuse to look up. I release a breath I didn't know I was holding when I feel a presence take the position in front of me. Lifting my head up to see a man about my age, he runs a hand through his dark locks and sends me a nervous wave. I release yet another deep breath when I note Theo position himself at the very front row. Begin. The stranger and I just stare at each other, unwilling to begin the fight high. I start off, feeling more at edge than ever. Oh God, someone end my life. Please. The man sends me an awkward smile, but none of us move to attack. Good morning, Luna. He greets me with a surprisingly soft voice. That did it. Guilt eats me up when the thought of not going along with my pack members reaches my mind. I fix my stance, feeling the need to fill in the uneasy silence. Too bad another figure decides to join us. What kind of strategy is this? Celestina mocks. It's called a truce. I retort. You'd die at the beginning of a war if you ever use this game plan. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I inform her. That's why you don't start one in the first place. That's it, she says with a resolute tone. We're switching partners. Celestina drags me away from the kind man. Another person takes my place. Disappointed at myself when they immediately sparred, their energies meeting each other. We moved past by the rows until we reached the very front, right beside Thea. Oh, look at us. Power couple or what? I concentrated Theo warily as he throws punches at the poo victim repeatedly. The man beneath him tries to block his blows, which didn't end up too well. Celestina's hands on both my shoulders moves my attention away from them. 10 minutes. She informs me with a reassuring smile. 10 minutes and I want you to give it your all. Couldn't be easier. I lie and huff out, cracking my knuckles. Celestina raises a suspicious brow and didn't waste another second before lunging at me. I swerved to the side, unsheathed the knife I tucked in the tight waistband of my sweatpants, and cut her bare arm very slightly. It healed as fast as I inflicted it. I should have known. She breathes out. I thought you knew me, I add. Apparently not well enough. I hear her say before she unsheathes a knife of her own from a hidden holster around her ankle. Excitement running through my veins. She sprints towards me but reflex kicks and I get away without getting hit, rolling back her shoulders and keeping her arms raised. It only takes me half a second to tell how she lifted her legs to land a kick. I lean back, keeping my guard up and judge the distance before counter-attacking. I falter a bit, not used to putting all my weight on one leg. Okay. My footwork right now was so not the MOV. She takes the opportunity and swings her arm, cutting my cheek in the process. Unlike her, my cut didn't heal. I hiss but keep a charming smile on my face, flirting to find my way out. I was going easy on you, I say in between counts, but I guess you like it rough. The only response I hear was a genuine laugh before she charges at me once again. On reflex, I lean away at kicking distance but still close enough to attack her. Timing. That was her first mistake. I was glad that her angles was at least horrible. I stopped myself from the urge of throwing my knife and just ending this little game. But we don't want that much blood now, do we? As a rogue, I rarely stay for a fight. All I did was land a hit and run away. I always joked to myself that I'd rather play dead rather than help end a war. Training with the goal of saving and aiding others when danger hits me was new to me. But I was willing to make that change. Twirling the knife in one hand and the other hand close to my chest, I shift my weight and go in for a hit. I stop my movement before I could slice her neck. Another mistake, underestimating your opponent. Her eyes widen in surprise, and we keep our eyes locked. Just a second after, the timer rings. Time to switch partners. We both relax and she throws me a wide smile. Sometimes I underestimate your capability. She tells me before pushing me out. Wait, I thought I was person B. I mumble. You were until now. She says then shoving me into a hard chest. Pulling away, I let out a fake barf and croak out. Oh God, I think I'm gonna throw up. Theo chuckles and lifts my head up with both his hands on either sides of my face. I frown when he frowns. His eyes swirled with murderous energy and he furrows his brows. I watch him, uncertain. Who did this? He questions me sternly while his thumb lightly caresses the area around my cut. Celestina, someone's definitely gonna die tonight. He growls lowly. Wait, Theo, no. If it makes you feel better. I almost killed her. I try to reason with him. Don't worry. I'm not gonna lay a hand on Celestina anytime soon. He tells me with a smirk. Then who? You see, she's lucky to have both a brother and a mate. He draws out, tucking in a strand of hair behind my ear. I'll take Emilio, but you can have the other one. I agree with him. He thinks for a long second before nodding. Begin. Celestina's voice booms and immediately, wolves clash against each other. I glanced innocently at Theo, who scrutinized me with crossed arms and a lopsided smile on his way. Why try if I'm gonna lose either way? Deciding it was faster for me to announce my defeat, I lunged towards Theo and surprisingly managed to slash his bicep. WHA, he grabs my arm and pulls me towards him before putting me down. I shut my eyes close to feel the disgusting dirt, but an arm wraps around my waist and I land on muscle instead. I lightly punch Theo's chest and glare at him. Douchebag. I love you. 2, he replies, a cocky smirk on his face. I lift myself up, only to feel a hand reach for me and pull me down so that I was now straddling Theo. He calmly watches me as I feel he thrush to my cheeks. I didn't miss the silence due to the lack of movement and the stairs boring holes into the back of my head. Instead of showing my embarrassment, I clear my throat and say, I knew I had a thing for bold men. Great going. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I always knew I had a loose screw. Am I allowed to dismiss myself? I hear a voice ask. I move myself away Theo's body and mentally groan to myself. Theo remains indifferent and only smiles, lacking the ability to process the environment around him. He helps me by pulling me up. Fortunately for me, something seems to make Theo go on high alert as he tenses up and searches for the unfamiliar presence. I always wondered how the Royal Crimson Pack manages to remain undefeated. Now I know why. A new voice calls out jokingly. I grin when I spot a familiar redhead, Emilio right beside him. Dismissed, Theo commands. He waits until everyone else have left for lunch before speaking once again. What gave you the liberty to travel hours just to see me? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Mason grins and runs for me, his arms wide open for a hug. Just as I was about to hug him, Theo covers my way and pulls Mason into a rather affectionate embrace. I guess that works. 2, Mason grumbles before pulling away with a ton of effort. Now tell me why you're here. Theo directs him, losing his patience yet enjoying having someone to make fun of. My uncle, an elder of the council, specifically asked me. He begins proudly, emphasizing his words, to request that your pack participate the annual pack meeting that you've been missing for quite a while now. Amelia perks up, as if this caught his interest. We all know that every celebration the council held was simply a chance for packs not only to make alliances, but also look down on others. Obviously, leaders of wealthier and stronger packs showcased their elaborate outfits and intimidating aura to earn a reputation. I've pretended to be a waitress many times just to steal $1 million necklace or two. I wasn't a fool to not notice the tension that tied the gathering together. Then why couldn't they just send a call or a message? Theo questions, clearly knowing the answer himself, narrowing his eyes at him. Mason continues, oh, maybe because you've blocked all communication with the council. I don't know. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Theo drags on. You tell me, why would I do that in the first place? Because you don't want anything to do with them. He answers doubtfully. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Theo concludes, a fake smile on his face. Now get out. Oh, come on. Mace unwinds and tries to plead with him. You can see Alex in a cute little dress and a tiara on her head while you wear a matching suit. At my name, Theo raises a brow at me and asks me, what do you think? I steal a glance only to be met by Mason's and Amelia's puppy dog eyes and groan out. Mason cheers to himself and leans in for a second hug only to be blocked by Theo once again. Thanks. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Mason beams and throws me a wide smile, as well as a stupid thumbs up. I throw him the middle finger but he still manages to keep that smile on his face. That's Luna for you. Theo adds. Chapter 30 right now. We were currently eating in Theo's office. Mason's arrival had caused us to miss lunchtime and Theo was too soft-hearted to ask the chefs to cook for us. So instead, Amelia, like the kind and great person he is, took the liberty of cooking breakfast for lunch. Theo pulls the chair I was sitting on closer to his, throwing an arm over my shoulders. Why are we sitting on a chair and you're not? Amelia grumbles at Theo and I, pouting to himself. Scarlet rolls her eyes and pulls his ear. Emilio only releases a squeaky yelp before returning to his plate. I stare at the somewhat looking fried eggs and sausages on my plate. I was about to take a bite of my own when Theo's words stopped me. Is this expired? He questions blatantly, painfully swallowing the food down his throat. I'm totally not offended, Emilio mutters, raising the fork to his mouth. It barely touches his lips before he retracts it. Not at all. This is shit, Mason blurts out. He keeps his tongue stuck out and was quick to drink his glass of water as if it was in fire. You're shit, Emilio retorts. He musters up all his strength to glare at the frantic redhead. Emilio turns his head to his mate. Is it really that bad? It's decent, she assured him with an uneasy smile. After seeing the pout on Emilio's face, Scarlett releases a cough, but eats her meal to prove her point. I hold back a laugh when her face contorts into one of disgust. Emilio smiles at her and proudly says, I knew you were the love of my L. Felix bluntly grumbles out. Still, he carries on with his eating despite its rotten taste. Suddenly, I'm not hungry anymore. After I push the plate away from me, I watch Theo continue to eat the awful food nonetheless. Resting his head on one hand, he munched the food in a bored manner. I cringe at the silence since people were too busy fighting their own battles with their taste buds and stomachs. That was until I feel a nudge on my shoulder and I look at Theo's fake smile with a frown. Raising his fork in front of my face like I was some fucking baby. No. Babe, you're gonna starve. He sighs out and feigns a frown. Still, he manages to exhibit the mischievous glimmer in his grey orbs. Babe, I'm on a diet. Especially when I have a party to prepare for in 24 hours. I tease him back. But darling, eggs give you protein, which will give you the vibrant and smooth skin you're yearning for. He continues, a flirty smile on his face. Me Emma, I'm afraid the huge amount of salt in his cooking will make me salty and bitchy for tomorrow's event. I flirt back and dap my eyes at him. His smile widens as he states to me, that's okay because you're all meal. Bugaboo, you have food on your face. Let me wipe it off your delicious face with the soft and warming pads of my finger. Mace uncouth at Felix, whose stare was icy like always. I spelled you're wrong, but it's okay since Mason's stupid anyways. I'm not your bugaboo, Felix spits out in disgust. I hold back a cackle. Theo releases a sigh before grumbling out a question, which sounded more of a command. Beta Mason, tell me why you're here again. I was hungry. You jerk, he replies with a glare. Call me that again and I'll throw you in my dungeon. The redhead perks up, glad that he was the center of attention once again. I mentally groan when I notice the excited smile on his face, as if he just found a record-breaking idea. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Your beauty is truly appealing and surpasses everyone else's but me. You and I would truly make a wonderful pair. And I hope you know COP because you simply take my breath, AWA. It's CPR. Theo corrects him, his arms crossed in an unamused manner. I mirror his actions and stare at Mason, waiting for him to shut up. He proceeds to his speech. It's outrageous that you're gorgeous and out of this world face is not showcased in an art museum, for you are a masterpiece. It is a struggle for me to find words to describe your beauty. Clearly, there is not a single word on the Bible for how handsome you, it's the dictionary. Mason ignores Theo and continues, his hand clutched to his chest. You are not only beautiful on the outside but also in the inside. Your eyes are just like the sunset, inspiring, irresistible. And, Mason lets out a fake gasp. You're so beautiful that you made me forget my pickup line. It's called Alzheimer's. Theo groans out, his patience trickling by the second. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You can kiss heaven goodbye because Mason teases once again, only to be disrupted by Theo. It's got to be a sin to look this good. He breathes out, massaging his temples. Mason smirks and says, I told you it's fate. Novels finish their sentences. A smirk takes over Theo's frown and he leans towards his desk. To my agent extraordinaire, Wolfsbane, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The only people who finish their sentences are twins. And I sure hope you're not a fan of incest because I know I'm not. Alpha Thea, you can be the Valerio to Milo. The door barges open and relieved sigh escapes our rigid bodies. Grateful for the disruption, and for the very first time, I was more than happy to see Talia. She blinks multiple times and refused to move as she was met by our ghastly expressions. Her mouth parts and she only made a move when her eyes landed on a Mason, who slowly waved at her. Bewildered, a strange look enters her face for only half a second before she cleared her throat and moved her attention away, snapping her eyes to Theo and finding her way towards us. She finally speaks. To my agent extraordinaire, Wolfsbane, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Luna, I apologize for the tardiness. My mom gave me the usual hour-long lecture for making fun of her casino games. But thankfully, I was able to leave and find the dress in your parents' old room. I raise a perplexed brow at her and watch her place a black, colored box wrapped in a gold ribbon on the desk as delicately as possible. I gape at it, already tasting the expensiveness on the tip of my tongue, my hands witching to open it and see whatever was inside, hoping it didn't disappoint. Thank you. Theo mumbles, earning a sweet smile from her. What is it? I ask him, my body on the edge of my seat. The curiosity was eating me away. Oh God, I just love opening boxes and most importantly, expensive boxes. Sliding it in front of me, he responds with an adoring expression. Your dress for tomorrow. Is it dark red? I quickly ask, excitement filling me. I don't know. I was never allowed to open it. He replies. He smiles when he sees the big smile on my face. Equally, I place a handle a lid and carefully lift it off, then setting it down beside, holding back a gasp. My jaw almost drops down to the floor as my eyes meet this beauty. Ignoring the stares, I gently run a hand through the fabric. Then, I remove the dress out of its little cage and raise it to my side for my eyes to guard WP. To my agent extraordinaire, Wolfsbane, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I say under my breath as I stare at the off-the-shoulder dress with gold sequins. A side slit graces the skirt of the dress and it hugs at the waist before flowing down. No way in hell was I going to be one of those nice girls who refused to accept such a grand gift. A gift is a gift for a reason. I fold back the dress and place it back to its box. I twist my body towards Theo and wrap my arms over his shoulder and his neck. I squeal out, I love it. Mama made it 2 years ago before she left the pack house. Theo tells me, an evident grin on his face. She's been waiting for a daughter since I was 18. The dress has been deprived of an owner for far too long. What if it doesn't fit? I question him as the possibility prods at my mind. It will. He reassures me as if it was the easiest question he's ever heard. Mothers know best. I grin back at him as I place the lid back on the box, patting it once. Mother has some taste. A music tin rings and immediately, all focus was sent to Talia, who scrambles to get her phone out of her pockets. There creeps in her eyes when she eyes the name of the caller. I'm sorry, but I have to take my leave, she informs Theo quickly before racing out of the room. I narrow my eyes at the redhead whose gaze oddly followed the empty doorway Talia left in. A lazy grin dances on his lips, lifting himself off the ground and readjusting the collar of his shirt like he was about to execute a mission. He tells us smugly, guys, I think I found my bugaboo. What? Scarlet questions him in an indecorous manner. Horror strikes her face as realization dawns her. Stopping at the doorway, Mason looks back at us and salutes. Do not worry since I'll be back soon. I have a mother to meet and a girl to ask for the ball.